Well, hey there, everybody. It's Pat Mesiti here with one of my favorite people on the planet. I got to tell you, this guy to me is a national treasure, and I love him and admire him for so many reasons. One, because he's a man of the people. Two, he's an incredible orator. Three, he actually makes sense. And Senator Malcolm Roberts, thanks for being on today. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Pat. And you forgot the biggest reason of all. We can see eye to eye.
That's right. And we see eye to eye. That was so funny. We were up at Bow Desert the other week, and that's how Malcolm starts off. And so we do see
We're both vertically challenged. Actually, we're both normal height, right?
That's right. Normal height, but we've got big hearts, I think. And at least that's what some people tell us. But hey, Malcolm, straight away, thank you for what you're doing for the country, not just for Queensland, for the country. You really are a hero in so many ways. But I wanted to bring you on because I saw a video of you absolutely tearing to shreds this scam, joke, facade, deceitful Albanese COVID inquiry. What prompted that?
Well, for a start, he broke a promise. And secondly, this has been the COVID intervention was one of the country's biggest ever interventions ever by government into people's lives. And not just into society, Pat, as you know, but into individual lives, family breakups, the lot. Forcing people to get COVID injections, forcing lockdowns, the longest lockdown in the planet, in the case of Victoria, and severe restrictions, forced mandated jabs, and people destroyed, health crippled. We've got 40,000 plus excess deaths now per year due to the COVID jabs. And it's quite clear that they're due to the COVID jabs because we've had statistical analyses done by Wilson Tsai, who is a statistician, and others now also in Britain. The same things apply in Britain. We've had Ben Bornstein in this country do a check, do an analysis of the British and the English figures, and that's being now checked by statisticians. So this was severe, and yet Albanese said, we're just going to have a COVID review. He reneged on his promise for a COVID Royal Commission.
Well, he kind of gave himself a little leeway because he is known to talk out both sides of the mouth. I think, and please correct me, he said a Royal Commission or an inquiry of sort, kind of tagline there. I mean, I don't know. Was that correct? Was that...
You're correct in word, but it was like this. We're going to have a Royal Commission or maybe an inquiry of some sort. That's the way it was done.
That sounds a lot to me like we're going to have a change to the Constitution, but I'm not telling you what's in it. It kind
of... Well, mate, this is the most far-reaching change proposed to our Constitution. It's a voice treaty. It's not just a voice. It's a voice treaty. It enables a treaty.
Yeah.
Yet we've got a misinformation. So he wants to listen supposedly to the voice. What would you call that? The voice body that is a precursor to a treaty. But he doesn't want anybody to select them or vote for them. He wants to select them himself. Or let the activists select themselves, which is really going to be a mess. So he's supposedly giving a voice to the people of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders races. And yet at the same time, he's bringing in misinformation, disinformation legislation to stop you from talking. Yet let the government continue talking, spreading misinformation, disinformation. Let the media, the mouthpiece media do it, but not you as a private podcaster. You can't do it. And then the second thing is no inquiry. So the biggest intervention in Australia's history, one of the biggest interventions in Australia's history, the most far-reaching intervention in our medical system, health system, and there's no inquiry.
Well, Malcolm, I just want to say it's not Albanese's misinformation. Come on, Malcolm, you're the conspiracy theorist. You're the misinformationist. You're the troubler of Israel, not them. You and that Mesiti and all those other people out there. This is misinformation. We're basing everything on love, remember? Until it gets voted down, there'll be hell on the street. But anyway, we'll leave that alone. I couldn't help myself there, Malcolm. Malcolm, this COVID inquiry, if it smells like a skunk, if it looks like a skunk, if it walks like a skunk, it's a skunk. All of a sudden, he sets it up so the states no inquiry. How non-reaching is this? Can you give us a bit of detail about this COVID inquiry, which even the Human Rights Commissioner has said is a waste of time? Give us a bit of insight into that.
Sure. It unlike a royal commission and unlike a Senate inquiry, a Senate select inquiry, it cannot compel witnesses. So what's the point of having it? It cannot subpoena documents. So what's the point of having it? It cannot. What's the other one? I'm thinking now. What's the other?
The state
Oh,
premier.
that's yeah. Well, no. There's a third one in there as well, Pat. Before we get onto the state premiers, can't compel testimony. That's right. How could I forget this? It doesn't have investigative powers, so it can't investigate. Yeah, exactly. Just like Morrison did with his investigation of the appointment of former ministers to positions in the private sector after they went to after they resigned. He gave the investigation to the head of the Prime Minister's and Cabinet Department, and he admitted himself that he didn't have investigative powers. So got no investigative powers, no opportunity to compel witnesses, no subpoenaing of documents. And then he said the terms of reference is restricted to exclude anything that the premiers of the states did unilaterally. So it can't invest, which is where most of the damage was done. That's where they executed most of the plans. They came up with the plans in national cabinet, but executed them through the state governments. So everything of significance, the lockdowns, the restrictions, the mandates, the other cruel things they did to us, cannot be touched with this inquiry. So what the hell's left to touch? And then on top of that, he appointed three basically non-practicing medical people. They're academics. He appointed them to investigate. Now, what practical health expertise have these people got? And then two of them, Pat, were the strongest advocates in support of Daniel Andrews's dreadful lockdowns. So you know that they've already been compromised. They've got a conflict of interest. So he's appointed two people with conflict of interest out of the three non-practicing health professionals.
Wow. Now, but robo-debt, that was okay, right?
Robo-debt was okay in the sense that it got a royal commission. Why? Because he wanted to use it to get dirt on Morrison. And you know, robo-debt robo-debt royal commission did a good job in exposing some really atrocious actions, some really harsh actions on the people of Australia. So that was justified. But that pales into almost not insignificant. What's the word I'm looking for? It pales beside the COVID interventions.
Correct.
Pat, if robo-debt justified a royal commission, and it did, and he did that as soon as he came in into office, then we must have a royal commission into the COVID inquiry, into the COVID mess.
You know, Malcolm, without bringing up the dead, but I remember during the time I was having a go at Morrison and another one of his henchmen up here, Stu Robert. And I kept saying, and mind you, a lot of my Christian church mates were all, he's a Christian brother, he shouldn't be doing it. Hang on a minute. This is good versus evil. This is, serving the people versus lording over the people. It's got nothing to do with me being a Christian or not a Christian. This is right and wrong. And yet now we see that what we said was correct. Do you think this inquiry is merely Albo trying to throw dirt back on Morrison and the Liberals? Because what's your thoughts on that?
Yes, it is. But number one, though, Pat, I'll stick with my previous view. It is about suppressing the real COVID atrocities that were committed, the inhuman atrocities that were committed by the state premier. So he's protecting his Labor mates. That's number one. Number two, he's protecting Big Pharma and his mates in Big Pharma. Remember, they donated $500,000 almost $500,000 to the Labor Party campaign.
Wow. The
third thing is he's getting as much dirt as he can on Morrison, because the only thing left to evaluate or to review from all the things he's excluded in the terms of reference is the federal health response.
When I look at this COVID cover-up, it's not an inquiry, it's an inquisition. No investigation on mental health, no investigation on the effect on our young people, no investigation on the suicide, no investigation on human rights and freedoms, no investigation on overreach of power, no investigation of pharmaceuticals, which are behind, by the way, a lot of this medical transitioning. Remember,
You're right.
I mean,
$3.2 billion a year.
2.2 billion, Malcolm, in this country. Is that correct? 2.2.
Well, I understand it's a $3.2 billion market. I thought that was global, but I stand to be corrected. That's my understanding. But
Well,
it'll grow from that. But
Okay.
that's just drugs. It'll grow if you increase the medical practitioners and the operations and so on.
You know, this is not a religious thing, but I just did a study this morning with our people, and I said in the Book of Revelation, which describes the apocalypse, it says that, and they bow down to their murders, thefts, and sorceries, and that word sorcery is pharmakia in the original Greek, which means pharmaceutical, can be translated pharmacist for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Why are these guys, apart from money under the table or on top of the table, why are they still enamored, locked in, and basically puppets of the pharmaceutical industry? Whether it be COVID,
well, we know,
or whether it be the yes,
we know, Pat, or the what?
The yes campaign.
Oh, okay. Well, we know that. Oh, where do you start? They're all locked in together. We know that the original healthcare sector, was in favor of natural treatments and looking at basics of health. Good exercise, good nutrition, rest, minimize stress, handling stress properly. We know natural herbal medicines. We know that that's what keep people healthy. Then we saw John D. Rockefeller come out and build a pharmacy industry based upon oil products from oil. And to do that, he had to suppress the proven successful treatments, the natural remedies. So that's what happened. And now we've got a massive industry built on basically oil, which is wonderful for putting in cars, but not in bodies. Yeah. So what we've got now is the need to maintain that pharmaceutical industry, big pharma. And if you look at the significant owners, the controlling owners of the big pharma companies, they're BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, First Capital, First Street Capital, etc. And so they're also the major controlling owners of Westpac, NAB, ANZ, Commonwealth Bank. They're also Qantas. Now you can see what happened with Qatar. They leaned on Albanese to not let Qatar in. That's my belief. Yep. And so you see a lot of these corporations are controlled by BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and First Street Capital. And so that's what's happening here. They're putting the pressure on Albanese to keep, and the media, of course, the mouthpiece media, the Big Brother media, that's owned by the same players overall, or certainly influenced by the same players. So what we're seeing is a massive reinforcement of the stealing of money out of your pocket, every taxpayer's pocket, to Big Pharma as part of a global campaign.
Can an incoming government reverse this decision by Albanese and force a royal commission?
Yes, an incoming government can say we'll have a royal commission. But remember the perpetrators of this, Morrison and the Labor premiers. So
not likely, right?
So it's not likely, but at the same time, the Liberals, I've got to give them credit. They have now they've now backed a motion to reveal the COVID contracts. The Labor Party, the Greens, David Pocock, and I think Jackie Lambie and Tammy Terrell all voted against it. So that's why the contracts are still in secrecy. There's another point that we should be looking at, the COVID contracts, the COVID injection contracts. What did we pay for? What were the restrictions? What were the powers? What were the indemnities given? We need to understand these things, and Albanese is shutting them all off.
Would a royal commission have incriminated Dan Andrews? And remember the quarantine stuff? He can't remember. I can't recall. I don't recall. I can't recall.
I think so. But the answer is, let's have a royal commission and find out.
How do we do that? How do we do that, Malcolm? What can we, the Australian people, do to pressure this? I struggle to call him Prime Minister, but what do we do? We could throw our arms at what practical solutions can the Australian people do to force this hand?
Well, a number of things that we can do. First of all, the Australian citizens have to remember that they are at the top of this country's hierarchy.
Mhm.
The people elect the government. Instead of just voting Liberal, and then when they go out of fashion, vote Labor, and then vote Liberal and vote Labor, they need to start voting for independent third parties that'll really put the accountability back into Parliament. That's the first thing. The second thing, they need to contact their local member of Parliament, whether it be Liberal, whether it be One Nation, whether it be, and the senators, whether it be Labor Party or National Party or Greens, and say you want a Royal Commission. Call them up, visit their office, write to them, not email. That's easy to dodge. Write to them with a paper-based letter that's hand signed,
Wow.
and demand a Royal Commission. And then to the next election, as I said, vote for the minor parties. Yeah, that's basically it.
Look, I think people, we've got to get off our social media and get off our emails and do what the good senator said and write a physical letter. There's something very powerful in writing a physical letter. And hey, you pay for those officers there. Show up at the office, make an appointment, talk to them. Now, Malcolm, so no accountability of the states, no inquiries of anything. What's this good for?
For blaming Morrison for a few things, and blaming the Liberal Party, and protecting the Labor premiers. That's all it's good for.
Now, Malcolm,
and remember this, Pat. Katie Gallagher, the senator from the ACT, was I think chief minister for the ACT at one time. She's up to her neck in the Labor Party. She's finance minister, and she's also manager of the government business in the Senate, I believe. Yes. And she chaired an inquiry while Morrison was prime minister. She chaired a Senate select inquiry into the COVID response. Let's call it that. Be kind. And one of her committee's recommendations was to have a Royal Commission. That's it. You know, so we've already got it there from the Labor Party, and that's gone very, very quiet.
Yeah, they go very quiet when it seems that they've got their back against the wall or they're incriminating themselves. Now, yesterday, again, if I could just switch on this, because I know you're very busy with what's going on in the next couple of weeks. Yesterday, we saw Albanese come out trying to half explain and kind of fell over again. And of course, Warren Mundine's daughter, who hasn't talked to in years, comes out attacking her dad. I thought that quite interesting. This voice that is forced down our throat every single day. You said something at a live event, which absolutely just, one, put wind in my sails, two, I had no idea. Can you explain the Constitution of Australia to us in simple language, how powerful it is in our hands, and what a lot of Australians don't know?
Yeah, sure. In a monarchy, we are a monarchy, but in a conventional monarchy, the king or queen rule. Okay, they give instructions, they tell you what to do. The people. Now, Australia's constitution is the only constitution in the world in which the people voted for the constitution. So it's a people's constitution.
Wow.
Very, very important to understand. It is the only constitution in the world where the people voted for it. It's people's constitution. So in a constitutional monarchy, the constitution is the supreme governing instrument of our nation. That makes us a republic. We are effectively a republic, but we have got the best system in the world. Now, remember, when I was in my 20s, I was an anti-monarchist. I was bring on the republic. Then I listened to the High Court Chief Justice and two other High Court judges at a Samuel Griffith Society meeting that my dad initially joined, and he wasn't a politician, but he joined as a concerned member of the public, and I joined following that because I learned what great work the Samuel Griffith Society does. And I listened to these judges and I went, wow, I've been ignorant. So I don't like the idea of a monarchy that hands down power from one generation to the next. But what I've seen is that our constitution is guarded by a monarch and is served by a monarch that actually has the best interests at heart. We could have a president, and then we have a clapped out politician with their prejudices. No, what we've got is a monarch that serves the people, just like Queen Elizabeth did. And you notice Prince Charles has toned down his language. I'm still worried about him because he's WEF supporter, World Economic Forum supporter, UN supporter, climate change alarmist, etc. But nonetheless, he has changed, and he is now serving because he's got a very important role and a lot of power and a lot of responsibility, which has changed the man, I think. So our constitution, what I'm getting to, is that the monarch serves us.
Right.
Now, what we're doing here is we've had 44 attempts at changing the constitution. Only 8 have succeeded. The other 36 have failed. I might be wrong on that. It might be 44 that have failed plus 8 that have succeeded. But the point I'm getting to is that the people have the power to change the constitution. Only the people. What we're seeing here is democracy in action. We're seeing our primary constitutional document, our constitution, undergoing assessment as to whether it needs a change. The people so far are waking up, and this is what's happened all along. It's become very, very hard for a government to change the constitution because the people of Australia rightly guard their constitution and hold it very, very high and guard it from political interference. Now, what we're seeing is that there's a massive change proposed by the government. The government is breaking the constitution and not putting that massive change on the ballot paper. Section 128 says the proposed law must be on the ballot paper. It's not doing that. It's giving a very broad, short description, just that we need to recognize the Aboriginal people and bring in a voice, right? Not saying anything about the treaty, not saying anything about the details. And the politicians are saying, let us do the details for you. That would change it from being the people's constitution, Pat, to being the politicians' constitution. We cannot have more politicians involved in this country. We need less politics intruding into people's lives. We've got to vote no. And the other thing about this treaty, this voice treaty, is that it's driven by the United Nations. That's what's driving this. Same with the native title. So this is a way to capture our sovereignty, destroy our sovereignty, destroy our governance.
Well, Senator Malcolm, I know it's a busy time and a hectic time for you, folks. Listen to what we're telling you. Write on your ballot paper a big NO. No X's, no crosses, no ticks, because otherwise the Electoral Commission, which, by the way, whose colours are very similar to the Yes campaign, I'll leave that one alone. Write NO. I would suggest you bring a pen with you. Malcolm, what do you think?
I'd agree with you. Take a pen. I have got a lot of faith in the Australian Electoral Commission. We've been searching right through them. We've turned them upside down. They've come up with flying colours. Mainly, there are only 2 areas that we're concerned about with regard to election processes. One is the lack of updating of the rolls rather, and the other one is the way the way pre-polls are sorted in a regional counting centre. But apart from that, it comes through very, very well. But if you want, take a pen. But the other thing, Pat, that we need to remind people is that there have been a few people with loose lips running around saying the referendum is not valid and it's rigged. If that's true, and they're saying don't vote. We're saying if there is a case mounted against it that shows the referendum is not valid, and that can be made. You can take the Australian Electoral Commission. You can take the Prime Minister to the High Court and get a ruling. But if that happens, it's better to have your vote in there.
Correct.
Better to have your vote in there. And what I'm scared about is that some people will say, well, the no vote so far is way ahead, and therefore we don't need to vote. Like hell, vote. Make sure you go and vote. And as you said, write a big fat NO where you're supposed to on the ballot paper.
Absolutely. Get on out there, folks. The other thing is the No campaign needs volunteers. Spoke to Joanna, spoke to Liddell, spoke to so many others, and they need volunteers on those booths. You need to get out there. Listen, stop listening to half-wits that tell you it's rigged and blah, blah, blah. Just stop that. We've got more brains than that. And it's your duty to vote. It's your duty to vote, folks. And
well said.
Rigged or not rigged, and I don't believe it is, but it's our duty, Malcolm.
Yeah, absolutely correct. It is. that's one of the things. We're in this mess in this country with things collapsing around us, intrusions from the World Economic Forum and the United Nations, because the people of Australia, and I count in that you and me,
Yep.
we've fallen asleep. As a people, we have fallen asleep.
Correct.
We need to be much more involved in holding the politicians accountable. And I say that with a lot of respect, because it is we that is at fault in this country. But I do want to single you out, Pat, for standing up, because this COVID has really brought your sense of duty to the fore. I mean, no, you've been unparalleled in your defence of Australia's way of life, our lifestyle, our whole democracy, our whole society. So thank you so much for doing that. You are what many citizens need to do. Speak up, stand up, and speak up.
Malcolm, thank you. And that moves touched my heart. Thank you so much. Coming from you, I take that, and thank you from my heart for those comments. And comes at a price, as you know, but that's it. You got to stand up and fight. Senator Malcolm Roberts, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you sometime soon in the future, face to face, eye to eye.
Eye to eye.
God bless you, Malcolm. Thank you so much.
And you, Pat. Thank you so much.
And folks, just a quick reminder that we have a very special event tomorrow. I have Bronwyn Bishop, and believe you me, she's got some things to say that might freak some of you out about what's going on. Again, due to the nature of the content, it will be on Zoom, and there will be a link here in the chat. Could I encourage you, get behind Senator Malcolm Roberts, get behind his voice, get behind him on social media, follow him. This man is a voice of the people. And again, thanks for watching, everybody. See you tomorrow on the Zoom. If you've registered, I'll make sure there is a link in the chat.